Hello and welcome to the Voices of Pueblo podcast brought to you by the Pueblo Star Journal. I'm Ben Kaysen here with Todd Albo, my good friend, the czar of all printing at the Pueblo Chieftain. Todd, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing fine, just great. How you doing?
I'm doing so good. It was such an honor to be a part of, telling you guys a story for the printing press this last edition of the Pueblo Star Journal. If you've not read that, go check it out at one of our pickup locations, or you can find it at pueblostarjournal.org. But I got a good chance to be around you guys and see your process for a while, and I just want to kind of start out with, what do people not understand about chieftain printing? What do people think? What's actually going on behind the scenes?
Well, I hear a bunch of stuff, and I know you see some, they still think we're connected together, so you get a bunch of the hate mail that you guys are printed in Texas, corporate don't care about, local news anymore, which, to some point, with our early deadlines we do, I dislike not getting all the sports we had and some of the breaking stories, but I do see a lot of local Pueblo stories only, and they're almost more than I've seen before. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. Yes, the building looks abandoned. We are close to the public because we're basically a printing facility, so we cannot take your checks for subscribers. And, we try to get as many complaints as we can, but, basically we print.
Yeah. Print. Dude, it's like, because, I got to go in there and see all the behind the scenes and see everything. Just, can you give me like a description of what does it look like inside that building when you look at the press and look at the process you guys have?
Some people would think it's chaotic, but it's kind of smooth, from when we get a file from a client, putting it on the right size templates, getting the plates output, putting them in order for the pressman grabbing them, putting them on, the press, and then, running it, getting it in the mailroom. Either we insert it or strap and stack it, and we either deliver it or, a lot of people still come down to the building and, pick up their stuff.
Yeah, and that's us as well for the Star Journal. So What I love is, we've gotten a chance to partner with you guys since we started. You guys have been our printer for all of our editions starting last year. And we get to come down and, obviously you guys are top-notch professional with everything. It's so fun to get to pick up those papers right off the press.
Yeah, it's a lot of people still want to come in and, look at it, check it out. And just like you said, it's like a, 3-story monster.
It's huge. It's huge. And, I did some research and chatted with you guys building the article out that, they built the whole side building just for the press, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so they built that entire building just to house the press.
Yeah, you can tell that when you're inside, you could see old school to new school what had to be built. And I was just trying to go back in my memory, and we actually, when the press was being built and getting ready to fire up, we still had the old press as a standby, so we would make plates for the new press and for the old press in case something happened, for a couple months before we totally said, okay, we're one press only.
So how old was the old press whenever it got, removed?
Man, I don't even know how old, because right before I started, I think we did a changeover, and I started in the mailroom, so I was just there. I didn't waver from there. So I didn't, like today, everybody's does multiple tasks and, multiple departments. We know a lot of stuff, but back then I really didn't pay attention to the press or, the pressman. So I just remember seeing the little red beast in there, and we'd run it and thought that was good until we got the new one. It was like night and day.
Night and day. Tell me about that transition, because you've been working for the Chieftain for how long, Todd?
This is my 38th year.
Wow. That's so
Thanksgiving
cool.
weekend, I started on the biggest paper of the year. I remember going down there. Like today, you wouldn't be able to do that. I went in, applied for a job, and it was like, show up tomorrow. And it was on the holiday shift. They were giving out bonuses for the machine that could give out the most papers. The guys were all, hey, don't mess up. We're going to win that bonus.
You're on the team.
Man, it was train, go. It was just like nonstop. And next thing you know, that the boss at the time, Ned Sutton, was all, if this guy comes back tomorrow, he's a keeper. And I've been there ever since.
Wow. Did you win the bonus?
And we won the bonus.
There you go.
And back then, $5 was a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, so you've seen, a lot of change around there, but specifically when it comes to the press, what's the big differences between the old press you guys had in there and the one you have in now?
Speed, quantity, and the overall quality. We could have never done what we do today on that old press. If I remember right, TV Mag maybe was the only extra job that we would run besides the Pueblo Chieftain.
Besides Chieftain, yep.
Yeah. I can remember maybe Jones Healy tab when they were, in the game, and a few other little things, but it was either you run the Chieftain and we had one other thing to run, and that was, two constant things, and now, if we run two things, it would be like, wait, what happened? What's going on?
Yeah. I mean, how many things do you guys actually run for people? I know you made us a big list, but it's a lot.
Yesterday, we ended up having 26 jobs on the press.
Oh my gosh.
And then we had a little hiccup, in some of the transition at night, so I moved two of them to this morning, so it kind of leveled out. But we average 22 to 25 jobs, especially Monday through Wednesday. We get to Thursday, and you would think 18 jobs is kind of a lot,
heavy
but
day,
to us, it's a slowdown. And then I think it was a year, maybe going on 2 years ago, somebody came up with the idea that, okay, all across the country, let's go Saturday, no print. Let's just do digital papers. And so now we still stick to that. So we use that day to kind of do maintenance, and some people get that day off. So, it's an extra day off. So a lot of guys now are working 410s to get their 40s, and taking the 3-day weekend.
Yep.
But that's Friday's about the only day, except for when we get to holidays, like Memorial Day's coming up. A lot of places, hey, well, we're not going to work on Monday. We'll send you files Friday. Well, I like to say always we're better than the post office because we do 365, 24/7, and we deliver. So it's like, okay, you guys might be off on that holiday, but we still have other print jobs we're going to run. But we will open up on that Friday and try to get some of the stuff that we run on Monday to kind of slow it down so we're not there all day.
So tell me about your team. Who do you guys have there, and what's special about your team of people you have working there?
So the team that I have now, back when I started, it was a typical night and day. We had a crew in the day, a crew in the night. Sometimes we didn't see each other. And back then, the night shift was actually night. You'd come in late, and you'd stay till the sun's coming up. So second shift nowadays, sometimes they're off by midnight because, the press is running that well. But I have my right-hand person, Kim. She's been with us 25 years.
Wow.
So I think she does it. We have William Eaton and Charmaine Benham. They're kind of new to the commercial print, but William was inside the building. Well, we working in another department. I seen his work ethic, so I'm all, hey, if you're gonna get him out of that part, let's move into my part. So I think I'm not sure on dates, but 17, 18 years in the game.
Wow. Charmaine's
relatively new, 5 years. So it's like, I like to say these guys come and they don't go, so they stay. That's what I like to see. And we're close knit. It's like a family.
Yeah.
Most of the time, especially myself, I am at work almost more than I'm at home. So I see these guys, all day long, and sometimes into the night. So it's just how it is.
Yeah. Why do you think everybody stayed as long as they have? What's special about
it? Everybody would say it used to be when the Rawlings, we're family owned. Yeah. Everybody cared. Everybody's family. It was like you start at the Chieftain and you're going to retire at the Chieftain. There was still some people, if it wasn't for some of the, newer technology and some of the, setbacks and cutoffs, layoffs that they did, would probably still be there because they wanted to still retire at the Chieftain. Nowadays, I don't know if some of the people that I still hire in the mailroom, they're older and they just want to work. Yeah. You're not getting the young kids, straight out of high school. I do have a couple of them, but I'm sure this job just might be a stepping stone, you know, working, let's save up some money and then see what my degree that I worked for in college, see if I can get a job. But I thought of that too, but I'm still chugging along.
That's awesome, Todd. Yeah. What about the job appeals to you so much that keeps you wanting to be a part of it?
I just guess I like news. And it's some people out there, they look at it and some days we're a day late, but I can tell you with social media, especially when it came on, it wasn't too bad, but nowadays there's people out there with their phones. It's on Facebook, Instagram, live. So even local TV media, they hardly have breaking news anymore. So, you know, you just got to think of the print media, the newspapers as, you know, you're sitting at your table, reading the comics, you know, drinking your coffee. That's what it is. If you're looking for breaking news, you're probably not going to find it in any newspaper across the country at all.
Yeah. It's wild how that's all changed over these last couple of years.
Yeah,
you know, 'cause
exactly.
For us at the Star Journal, we're looking at that same thing. It's like, you know, you have so much of this breaking stuff, which means that there's more, though, of a hole for really intentional, like deep, you know, news within Pueblo that, you know, is stuff that people want to read. That's not just that surface level tweet about something, right?
Yeah, exactly. You know, you get that story, you know, what is it, Pueblo Fuel and Iron. I know we've been pumping them up, and there's a few other stories out there that, you know, that I like to see that are still Pueblo relevant. You know, there's still some stuff that inside the paper that it's national, but, you know, all papers put that out. You know, if you were to flip through one of the, you know, like what the story say, 76 weekly or daily, monthly publications, you're probably not going to find something that ain't totally local. There's going to be some national story in there that is too good to pass up.
Yeah, I mean, we had the big list that we put together with you. So, I mean, it's 46 weekly, 10 monthly, and then a bunch more in terms of daily as well that you guys work with.
Yeah.
At least. You know, this was you putting the list together of all of the different places that you've worked with. And, you know, what's it like switching between the different, you know, providers for news? You know, you're on a call with us at the Star Journal, and then you're talking to the Chieftain, then you're talking to Fort Collins. What's that like working with all those different news people?
Sometimes I get a little confused, but it's
that's a lot of names to keep you there.
You start learning the names, so it's like I see Rory or Ben or Greg. I know it's you guys, and you know there's a design center that sends us stuff for the USA Today for Fort Collins, so I know what channel that comes through, and then kind of just like on a first name basis, and we see the emails coming from all the other little publications. So it's like, it might be a business, it might be a livelihood, but still some of these people I've worked with for countless years, and when they struggle, like last year, the El Paso Fountain Valley newspaper just couldn't stay afloat anymore, and you know they had some stuff that other papers didn't cover, and so once they went, you know, I think Christmas week was their last paper, and like some of that stuff I still miss, you know, reading in there that other papers don't cover, they were covering. So it's just one of them things that still might be business, but some of them little papers, their family, they always text updates. Hey, we're sending, you know, it's kind of not professional business like where it's all, you know, cut and dry. So I don't mind getting a text, hey, we're sending files. Hey, we're, you know, losing that because, you know, that's what you got to, you know, do nowadays because I just don't put everything out. I am like customer service.
Yeah.
So
you definitely are.
I'm there. It's like a lot of people, you know, COVID, work from home. It's kind of hard to put out a newspaper, you know, remotely. So we were in the building all through it. So it's like nothing changed.
For you guys.
No lockdown.
Pushing right through. Oh man. Well, so we were talking a little bit about that. So you mentioned to me that there's really only two big presses in Colorado. You've got Pueblo and you've got Denver. Why is it important that the press is here in Pueblo?
If it wasn't down here, you know, southern Colorado wise, I don't know time wise if all the papers could get printed because there's a time where you got to turn people away.
Sure.
You know, I'm hoping that, you know, that never happens. Like where, hey, Todd, we can't take any more. We're at our max. You know, I know what we could print and I know the capabilities, but, you know, up north, you know, there is the, the Denver Post, and they do have, a state-of-the-art press. I wouldn't say they're rivals because, we do partner with them if, in a snowstorm. Another thing a lot of people do not know, we got to get over Monument to get USA and Fort Collins to there. They got to come down with the Nationals, the Post, Canyon City. So if we have a big snowstorm, we make that call that we'll run a few of their jobs that stay south of the Monument. They'll run some that go north. So it's kind of, we have a partnership. Cool. They do have two sites, one in Denver, one in Berthoud. So they have two presses, compared to, R1. But, it's just, I just like being in the printing business. It's kind of sad that I think it was Signature, Offset, publication printers that they couldn't, after COVID, it's like a lot of these places, they couldn't find employees and they couldn't keep the door open. So it's kind of sad that they did have to close doors, but, it opened up more papers coming to us to, get printed.
When did it change for you guys to where you went from, hey, we're just doing ourself and maybe one other thing, to now you're doing, the 80 publications you guys do now? When did that change where you became more of a commercial press that way?
Yeah, I know to make it happen, they had that vision when they bought the press that, hey, we're going to have to do more than this. And I want to say that I'd have to think back, but Thrifty Nickel would be one of them that was the first one that came, and that's when there was actually Thrifty Nickel in Pueblo and a Thrifty Nickel in Colorado Springs. So, we ran both of them. So it was, a pretty good long press run. And then all of a sudden, then the word got out, hey, these guys in Pueblo might be running. And I was still just working in the composing how it was back then. Now, so we really don't compose anything. That's why it's, it's pre-press. Everything before it gets on the press, we handle pre-press. So it's just started as a few, and then before you know it, it's like, hey, here's another one, here's another one. A lot of them are like publishing companies like Colorado Community Media in Denver.
Yep.
If you take one of their papers, you're going to get them all. So they have 26 papers, plus they have their special sections and, like rodeo editions, orchestra that are one-offs that throughout the year, each season. So their 26 actually turn into close to 40 from that we print a year. And so you get that one and you get them all.
Dang. That's super cool. Yeah, I mean, you guys picking up that many papers and doing that much you guys do, how close do you think you are to your capacity? You mentioned, maybe someday we'll have to say no, but do you think you guys are close?
Like a lot of the papers, they went out on a certain day. A lot of people want to try to print on Tuesday night, Wednesday pickups, so they can hit the streets on Friday.
Yep.
And if we had to, and there was a big fish, there's still some big fish out there, I could say that are getting printed that are dailies. If one of them that was closest to us decided, hey, let's see what the Chieftain can do, I'm sure we would make that move to print every day.
More consistent that way.
And then you can't tell somebody, no, we're not going to print you on Saturday just because we don't print our own product. We would gladly, I'm sure, open the door if it meant more revenue and, keeping these, the doors open and everybody still, even though a couple of us are core worker, 38, 39, 40, 41 years there, we still got a couple more years in us before we retire. So I like to stick it out. I myself, I'm pretty sure I got 10 to 12 more years. So good. I want to make sure print media stays that long.
Yep. Good. And, it's cool just to see how much demand there actually is for you guys' work. I mean, you have a lot of work that you guys have doing. It's really cool to see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you remember about them installing the new press and getting it built in? Because you were working there at that point. What was that like?
It was kind of cool. It was just like when you're seeing something built because, you're used to one part of the building and all of a sudden here's going up this big old structure and that it was built specifically, for the press. And I think they came in on the bottom, they had some gantries where they could, start building up. And then the actual third tier of the press, you could see the big square in there where there was a crane and they had to bring in the top part of the press through the big hole in the ceiling, to, put it on top.
Yeah.
So, it was, and just like the paper storage warehouse that had to get built new specifically for what we have, stored in there, which at any given time is probably 45 days worth of paper for all the publications. So it's a lot of rolls.
It's massive.
Yeah.
You showed me that when I was in there. It's like these stacks of rolls of paper that are just.
Yep.
It's hard to think about how much paper it was. That you're just like, maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. You guys powering right through with that.
Yep.
Yeah, man. What was the buzz like whenever the new press was coming in around the Chieftain, around Pueblo?
I think everybody wanted just to happen, just so they could, be a part of it and see what kind of quality difference there was between, a letter press and an offset, which is, tremendous. And the width, it was single wide, now we're, double wide. It's just like a lot of things that sometimes people, don't understand. Sometimes I don't understand. I just do it.
Hey, fair enough. What's the difference between a letter set and an offset?
The letter is like, there was, let's see, raised copy were on the plate, and it was backwards. So then the image runs around the press, prints on a blanket right way. So when it hits the paper, it's legible.
Yeah.
And like the press we have now, I could pull a plate off and I could read it. It's right read because it's going on there, still going on the blanket, and then off the newsprint. So technology.
Technology. That's super cool. Yeah. What's the process like? Let's take the Star Journal, for example. Like, it's Tuesday. We send you off our files for our paper. What process does it go to get done?
So I'm looking at if you tell me in advance, I usually know when you're coming off the press.
Yep.
I have you down at a certain time, and I know that if you guys hit your deadline, we'll have you on a press sometime, that night. So that's what I look at. I know on any given day what we run, how long it takes, and regardless if there's any issues, we should be able to maintain that time frame. So that way I could tell you, yeah, your papers will be ready. Your files are here by 5. I'm going to get you on at 8. It'll be ready that night. Most times you guys come the next day, but today we did run you in the daytime so that, they're out there, waiting. But there is some guys, they'll have a late breaking story where we've had to, stop the press, run their new page on there and
you've had to literally stop the press before it was ready.
Yeah. It's one of them things, people laugh about it, but it is, I'm one of them guys that, hey, if I got to do it, I can. Stop the press. We got to do it.
That's awesome. What do you have you ever like tell me a story of that? Was there something exciting that happened where you had to make that call to stop the press and change something up?
See, back in the early days, I want to say it was one of the presidential elections. I think I remember I was working with I think there was still Marv Reed, Henson. I think they were gone, and Juan was available for the night. The TV was reporting one way. I want to say we printed, I can't remember if it's Gore wins or Bush wins, and it wasn't set. And my wife had actually called me at work and said, hey, have you seen what's going on TV? And it was backwards. So I called Juan. He came down. We actually caught the air, printed it out, and I want to say a lot of the other papers had already gone to press and were done. We were one of the only papers in the state that got the actual headline right because we did do that.
That's awesome.
So
that's so cool. How were you feeling about yourself when you made that call and got that switch?
It was cool because then awesome. The next day, all the emails came out that, hey, it was great teamwork last night. We got it done.
Yep.
We weren't the only ones. So there's not too many of them moments anymore because a lot of the breaking news is either done or gone. But there is a few that we try to get on there. But nowadays it would probably be virtually impossible if something happened late at night. If it was a big enough, I would say, catastrophe or community, something big happened, we might be able to do that. But with the press running and sometimes, the daily already out before, sometimes the news is even on TV, it would be hard to get something in there, not just by us, but by most papers.
Yeah, for everybody. Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
So
that's cool. I'm trying to imagine that moment. That's sweet. Just really stop the press. We gotta switch that.
I think the latest the latest one where we caught it was the indictment of Trump. What was it? A couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
We were getting ready. We had Fort Collins, our paper, and USA Today all ready to go, and we changed the cover on all three of them. So that was the latest thing that we actually had to change for, a relevant story. So it did get in there. People weren't already seeing it on TV, and so when we print it the next day, it's like, that's old news. We did get that stuff finished live, so that's kind of feel good.
I would say so. That's sweet. So talk to me about the capacity for the press. How much can you guys print? It's such a crazy, massive machine. What are some of the cool things that it can do?
So if there's two ways we could run. There's a collect run. There's a straight run. It's kind of hard to explain, but a straight run is we make 2 plates of every paper. So it's only on certain sizes that we run like that. So small, 8 pages, 12 pages, something like that.
Yep.
We would be able to have 2 plates of everything. So maximum capacity would be 30,000. We could run 30,000 pieces an hour. If we were running straight, we could run 60,000. So we do have a lot of the small newspapers, local, especially out east. They're small. They usually stay the same sizes, 10 pages broadsheet or 12 pages tab. They run straight. Most of all our other jobs, they're collect runs, and they're pretty big, 40 pages, 48 pages. So you got to kind of slow them down because, 48 pages full of color. That's, most of the time 2 pressmen, 1 guy checks color, 1 guy checks registration. So you got to, slow it down a little to make sure that we're putting out quality products.
And so they're running and they're checking the paper just to make sure that it's up to quality while it's going?
Yes.
That's cool. I got to see them do that when I was over there with you the other day. They were pulling papers out, checking things out.
Like some people, hey, do you guys even check stuff? And how do you, if you're running so fast? And all these guys are professionals. Yeah. They've been doing it. That's their job. So they know what they do. They do their part. I do my part. And I'm kind of all over. So it's like I make sure that, we get quality out because I don't want to call from some publisher saying that, hey, they didn't like what they seen. I'd rather just get the thumbs up, thumbs up. I get a thumbs up text all the time from a lot of the people. So that's, it's appreciative.
That's cool. It is. That's sick, man. Yeah. So what does the Pueblo Chieftain mean to you?
See, the Pueblo Chieftain, it's just one of them things. I think when I started, even being a paper boy, it was right when we still had the Pueblo Chieftain and Star Journal. Pueblo Chieftain was the day paper, Star Journal was the night paper. Yep. That was they were just merging when I was a paper boy. And, I was like, got to be 12. So I can remember, that's when you still could go to everybody's house, and collect, and, you talk to them, and they, you get Christmas cards. So it was kind of cool because I was, even at that young, I always put the papers on the porches. I was very, professional. So I know, that part of it. So then when I got out of high school and I started to work, I still had a paper route and I was working the job at the same time. Then sometimes it got to be too much because I'd still be working when I needed to have that paper, on the porch. So then I had to go away with the, delivering, and then like nowadays if you have a good paper boy, he'll still do that, but you got to have it on the porch anymore because most things, there's no paper boy. It's a paper carrier that can drive. So there's no walking the route and tossing it. It's coming from a car now. So it's still one of them things that I wanted to be involved because it was Pueblo. Yeah. A lot of people, you see steel mill, Pueblo. Nowadays it's Pueblo Chile, Pueblo. But the Pueblo Chieftain still, I consider it's a local newspaper. We're here, in the heart of Pueblo, and we're printing everybody in southern Colorado, and that's what a lot of people don't know. I do dislike some of that we're not open where people could come in and pay the bills and all that stuff. But there's a lot of papers that don't have that access still. I know some of the older generation don't like it. They want to come down and pay their bill. They don't want to send it to somebody. They want to talk to somebody. They want to pick up a paper. I get it, but it's just one of the things. I don't think that's going to change. We still have a few remote employees that they learn to do their job good from home, and why rock the boat, just
Sure.
Still do it. But it was one of the things that back in the day I gauged myself by the USA Today, because back in the day USA Today was the top of the tier to print. You wanted to print the USA Today. Everybody read it. So when we got the word that we were going to print them in our building, it was kind of one of them aha moments. Like, there it is. I've done everything I could do. We're printing the USA Today inside the Pueblo Chieftain. So that's just one of the marks that you wanted to print up against. Like, I want our stuff to come out exactly like that, because that's what you looked for. So now we print that, so it's like, it might not mean what it did back in the day, but to me, printing USA Today is still, on the top of a list of, stuff to print.
That's incredible. Todd, thank you so much for sharing that, man. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
Yeah, so for Puebloans who are listening to this, how can they connect with you guys over there at the Commercial Press? How can they reach out to you guys?
It's I like to say, oh, you could just come in and do something, but it's it's
well, you guys
not,
have a lot of stuff going on.
We do have, there's still there's writers in the building where they can, if you knock on the door, maybe somebody will answer. But around back in the mailroom, if somebody's missing a paper, we'll try to, it's like when I was coming up here to meet you, I grabbed a bundle for you, and there was two older ladies where, hey, I didn't get my paper today, and the mailroom crew was helping them out, so they know what they can get and what they can't get. But it's just there's no specific way. There's a phone number in the paper to call. I think it's 544-0166, but it's going to be options. So a lot of people, I don't want to talk to a machine, but unfortunately that's the that's the way that stuff goes. But most of the time I try to have myself accessible. If somebody wanted to talk to me, and see what's going on, but it's just one of them things it's hard for me to say this is how you can get a hold of anybody at the Chieftain, because really there's no reason to get something. But we do still try. If your kid was on the sports page, there's an obit in there, we still do try to accommodate that stuff the best we can for them. Keepsake moments, because people still see it on social media, Facebook, seeing a picture, somebody taking a picture of it. That's one way. But if you have that paper in your hand and you're going to put that in your scrapbook, that's totally different. And I'm still glad I'm part of that, where somebody still wants to have, paper and save it, frame it. So,
Todd, thank you so much for everything you do, man. And you've been a huge blessing for us at the Star Journal, but just all the work that you've done for Pueblo and for the Chieftain, and just keeping people informed. We're really thankful for that. So, and for you and the whole team, it's just been incredible to get to know you guys a little more this last month.
I appreciate it, and everyone was kind of ecstatic that you guys wrote about us, and they got to know that, hey, the Chieftain does print other stuff, and now they're all, when's this podcast coming out? We want to hear it. So it's like, it's all good.
That's good, man. Well, thank you so much for listening. This has been the Voices of Pueblo, brought to you by the Pueblo Star Journal. If you like this podcast, go check out some of our previous episodes for some of our previous cover stories, and go read the cover story. We put it together. You can check it on pueblostarjournal.org, as well as we have our pickup locations you can find there. Go pick up a paper or drop by our office. We're down at the Business and Technology Center. So thank you so much for listening. For Ben Kaysen and Todd Albo, have a great rest of your day.